Good evening, Who Dat Nation, and a special good evening to our Bayou Blitz family, or should I say happy Wednesday on a Friday. I hope everybody is doing well on this late June evening. I am Bob Rose. I'm one of your co-hosts to your Bayou Blitz podcast. And joining me is my partner in crime and back from his long road trip, Brendan Boylan. Listen, folks, thank you for bearing with us. It's been a crazy couple of weeks for Brendan and myself, both individually, for vastly different reasons. But we are here. We we tried not to throw you by the wayside. So I hope y'all didn't feel that way. But Brendan, happy Wednesday on a Friday, and welcome to your home in transit, my friend.
Yeah. So to put that in short, on top of many other things going on, in the process of moving. So moving while being on the road is not super ideal. But look, I mean, I'll say this, and only you'll understand this, Bob, but Art wouldn't have had it any other way.
No.
If Art was still around, he'd be like, "Oh, you're moving? Great. Can you meet me in like Tacoma, Washington?" I'd be like, "I guess." So he wouldn't have it any other way. But yeah, happy to be back home, even though there's stuff all over my floor, and we'll start seriously moving here in the next couple of days. On top of, you guys know, wedding planning and what else do I got going on? Whatever. Film festival, like final submissions. We have like late submissions that I'm having to give opinions on. So, getting an email midday from my buddy Thomas Manning, who looks over that whole festival, going, "Hey man, you mind watching these 4 or 5 and giving me your thoughts and comments real quick? Yeah, we need that by the end of June." And you're like, "Thomas, it's the 27th of June." But anyway, enough about me. Bob, I know you've been busy. You got a kid playing soccer now, which is awesome. Much more awesome than the United States' performance against Panama the other night in soccer. So, maybe Will can actually lead us to, like a World Cup final one day. That would be pretty great.
It would be. I mean, heck, you never know. I mean, some people that have known me for years are kind of making fun of me. I'm a sprints and hurdles coach with a wife that runs marathons and half marathons, and a former pro-am volleyball player with a soccer playing son. So God has a sense of humor. But listen, Will had a blast at his first soccer camp. We made the decision to sign him up for his first soccer team. So games will begin in the fall. So those of you that follow my personal social media, along with my wife Lauren, obviously there'll be plenty of postings about Mr. William, who has been an occasional, albeit brief, guest on your Bayou Blitz too. So maybe he'll make a uniformed appearance or two in the near future as well.
So the only way that this is going to be like officially official with Will and getting these like soccer updates, like I need you to go hard into this, man. I need like player ratings. I need statistics. Like I need Will getting like a 7.8, grade because of this, and this. I need all of it. I need you to become like a soccer fanatic, which won't happen. But we have high hopes for Bob. But let's get to the reason why we're here, right?
Yeah.
So, Bob and I.
And it's not to interrupt. I apologize for the interruption. I am not announcing my official candidacy for president of the United States. Y'all had your chance. I have run several times, officially, unofficially, officially, since 2012, and yet I am sitting on your Bayou Blitz podcast. So no, I am not running. I am not officially running for president of the United States this time around.
And I'm not either. I'm gonna throw my hat in that and say no, not me either. People who know me personally know that I cannot stand to speak politics at all, whether it be public or personal. But just to continue the joke a little bit, Bob, the Democratic Party may be looking for a candidate, so you might want to throw your hat in that, based off what some of the national pundits were saying last night.
Hey, listen, I love talking politics, but true politics. not the cartoon jokes that have been running since 2016. And I'm not just talking for president here. I'm talking for, several most congressional offices, politics, as it were, in this country. And my guess is throughout the world is a complete joke. It's not about, hasn't been about the issues for quite some time. It's about whichever guy is less scandalous, and whichever whichever person is less scandalous, and whichever person tells the more convincing lies. And it makes me sick to my stomach.
True words from Bob Rose. But Bob and I, as we mentioned, the last few weeks have been really crazy for the two of us for a multitude of reasons. I do have to pat ourselves on the back a little bit and say we have done a pretty good job over the last 3 months of consistently giving you guys a show on Wednesday nights. I think all but like 1 week, maybe 1 week we took off in all of that, just because of conflicts of schedule and stuff. So with that, Bob and I have some news. It's not bad news. I know I just thought like that probably did not come across right. Like it probably sounded like I was about to say something super duper sad. But no, this is actually good news. So Bob kind of hinted at this maybe 3 weeks ago that we did have some news. We didn't want to prematurely say anything, right? Because that's the worst when you go and you open up your mouth a little too early. So, with that being said, Bob and I have officially signed a deal to join the Minute Media Podcast Network, which is super exciting for the two of us. We have been doing the show together for 2 years now.
Mm-hmm. 2 years, 2 years this summer.
2 years this summer, and the goal of ours was to continue to expand, right? And very thankful to Minute Media for giving us the opportunity to grow with their network. Those who are not familiar with Minute Media, they own Fansided, and they have also recently bought Sports Illustrated's online platform. So they reached out to us. They asked us a few questions. But I think the most important part of this, and the question that some of you are sitting at home thinking, is like, well, how does this change what we are doing? And how does it affect you guys? It's super simple because Bob and I had probably a laundry list of questions when this first got pitched to us for a couple reasons. I think first and foremost, and most importantly, is what Bob says every single week to you guys, and that is that this is your show, and we wanted to make sure that even if we decided to go to and come to an agreement with a network, that this was still going to be your show. We did not want a situation where we were told what we can and cannot do. We didn't want a situation where we were told what guests we could and could not have. And we wanted to have the freedoms to continue to do things the way that we, as not just Bob and I, but we, including you guys, have been doing this show for 2 years. So with that said, you guys can still catch us here.
Mm-hmm.
Everything will still be distributed on whether you're watching from YouTube, whether you're watching from Twitter, Facebook, you can catch all of that there, right? So if you're a weekly watcher through the Saints News Network on YouTube, you can continue to find us with the Saints News Network on YouTube. If you guys are tuning in because you follow myself or Bob or the Bayou Blitz on the artist formerly known as Twitter, you can continue to find the show there. But this is what we ask you, and this was probably the biggest reason that Bob and I decided to go forward with this deal was, you guys know, or maybe you don't know, Bob and I have been doing this show for 2 years, Bob and I have been working together for, I don't even know, 6 or 7 years,
Maybe 7 or 8, but yeah.
maybe longer, doing draft shows, all that stuff. And anything that we have presented to you guys like this, well, Bob and I have been doing out of the kindness of our hearts and with the time away from family and whatnot, and not making a dime off of it. So this is where we ask you guys for the continued support and love. And no, we are not going to be those people that are like, Cash App us here. Like, we're not going to be doing that. All we ask is through this platform, Minute Media is going to be distributing this podcast to your favorite podcasts, where you find your favorite podcasts, whether that be Apple Podcasts, Spotify, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You're going to be able to find it linked to articles on Fansided, linked to articles on the Saints News Network. And all we ask is, hey, look, even if we're not going to ask you guys to change what you're doing, right? If you guys are going to continue to be weekly watchers on YouTube, we want you guys here, and we want you guys here watching on YouTube. We want you guys in the comments. That's one thing that we love about a live show. And one thing we refuse to give up in this contract was we refuse to do something where we couldn't do a show live, because your guys' comments make half the show. How many times have Bob and I had an idea of, hey, we're going to talk about this, we're going to talk about this, we're going to talk about this, and then we go completely off track because you lovely people in the chat, I'm thinking Anna, I'm thinking DJ, I'm thinking John Butler, I am definitely missing people, but people like that are here every single week dropping comments, they have a question or they share their opinion, and Bob and I go, you know what, screw whatever we thought we were going to do for the last 15 minutes of this show. Like, let's talk about this. And that's what makes the show so special. So please continue to funnel in however you are. But we ask you, hey, if on your morning drives to work, you're pulling up Spotify anyway to listen to your favorite murder mystery podcast, because that's what Katie does when she goes to work. We just ask that maybe you guys throw the Bayou Blitz on, on your way home. Yeah, please, because that's going to be able to help us. It's going to help us reach more people. It's going to help us grow. It's going to put a little bit of money in our pockets, which, it doesn't hurt at all. But
because this boy's hurting.
Are you?
Yeah,
I know.
yeah.
I know.
Oh,
I
yeah.
know. It's not even, are you? Yeah, I know.
And most important, and I know the comments that we're making, do sound a little bit self-serving, but look at it this way. You guys, your Bayou Blitz is now expanding, which was our goal from day one. It's expanding to other networks, other more availability through our article links, like Brendan mentioned, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, things like that. If you miss a live show, then you can catch us on the rebound through the remainder of the week, and it's going to be even easier to do so, as Brendan said. The content of the show, as you said, Brendan, it's not going to change at all. Carrie Roden over at Fansided has been tremendous. Tremendously informative, tremendously helpful with us walking through this process, because it is kind of a complicated process, to set up in this direction. And to their credit, it was never, apparently your show, the content of your show is what attracted them in the first place. So when we asked them about that, I think they probably thought we were crazy, Brendan. They're like, no, we don't want you to change a thing. We're going to continue to have the guests, the interactiveness that Brendan and I enjoy so much from you. We're going to have obviously some sponsorship ads built in to the taped feeds, and the occasional live reads by either Mr. Boylan or myself. We're kind of looking forward to that one, in hopes that we don't butcher it up. And it's going to be able to for us to do two things for you guys as well. is probably going to be able to allow us to give you more shows. In other words, when something breaking happens, if Brendan and I are both free, or frankly, even if one of us are free, to jump on, and do a quick live show about it real quick for a 20 or 30-minute show, we'll be able to do that. We plan on continuing to give you the draft coverage for all 3 days that we do. We've talked about, Brendan, in the past doing kind of a free agent frenzy show. We have yet to do that, but that's something that we could do as well. And we're going to continue to do our pregame and postgame shows, for you during the regular season as well. Plus, more sponsors means some money, means some giveaways. It's kind of a vicious circle. So, I mean, we're really, really excited for this.
More giveaways, updated equipment, things that we desperately need, to make the show better as well. I mean, things as small as having, and we just talked about it before we got on, having somebody do like an intro for us. Well, that costs money, and that we're going to put it this way. The money that comes in, first and foremost, feed ourselves. But after that, we're going to take the money to make this show better. Like, for example, like I said, equipment, or the fact that I haven't had a backdrop in however many weeks, months now. We're going to make your show even more enjoyable than it already is. Like Bob said, just to echo, like, we're going to be able to do and give you more content, right? Like, Bob and I for months have been like, well, once we get to 2,000, we're going to do exclusive content. We're going to do exclusive content. Well, guess what? Like, we're going to be able to do exclusive content for people who follow us on Spotify. We're going to be able to do exclusive content for people who follow us on Apple Podcasts. We're going to be able to jump in and give you guys analysis of virtually anything, just like that. And if you guys want to listen to it back, it's a lot easier when you're driving or you have this in your hand to pull up Spotify and plug it into something, or you're going on your morning runs, or you're taking the dogs on a long walk in the morning. Maybe not in this heat, at least where I'm at, but it's a lot easier to pop some earbuds in, throw your beats on, do whatever, and pull up Spotify than it is to worry about having YouTube up and it's playing a video, and you're walking, it hits the wrong part of your pocket, all that good stuff, and then it pauses the video, it skips the video. It's going to be so much more convenient for everyone. DJ says in the chat, Bayou Blitz shirts and hats. That's something Bob and I have been talking about for a long time too. Like, I think one of the first conversations Bob and I had about Bayou Blitz hats was, we got to do one that's like a dot or drop, like hat, with the Bayou Blitz logo on the side or something, right? We want to be able to do that for you guys. And we've been fortunate enough to do some giveaways, right? Like, we gave away Funko Pops. At some point, we gave away like an autographed rookie card at some point. Like, we want to continue to be able to do those things for you, and this sponsorship's going to allow us to do that. And we're super excited. But again, we bring you this news super happy, but we bring you this news with the additional request of, hey, look, this is only going to work if you guys are in too. Like, we're already in. We're the ones that signed the contract. Like, we're in. But we need your guys' help to continue to grow it. And we need your guys' help by doing something as simple as clicking it on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, listening to it back, going, you know what? I really like what Bob said the other day about insert player here. Let me listen to that again. Or the few times where Bob and I make a prediction and we're right, and you go, you know what? You're watching the game and you're like, wow, you know what? I think Bob or Brendan mentioned that, like, this could be like a Kendre Miller breakout game. And you rewind it back and you listen to it back on Apple Podcasts. You go, wow, on Wednesday this week, that's what they said. On Sunday, boom. And then, things like that. Another thing, we talk about more shows. Bob, you know what I miss doing? and this is off the cuff. We haven't talked about this. I miss doing my fantasy football pieces. I miss doing my, now that sports betting's legal all over the place, like I miss doing stuff like that. Well, guess what? Bob and I, or just myself or whatever, I could give you, or we could give you a quick 15-minute thing on like, hey, these are your plays of the week for fantasy, and these are your bets and plays of the week for, whatever sports book you use. And I'm going to say whatever sports book you use because, hey, sports books, we need sponsors. Hey, DraftKings. Hey, FanDuel. Hey, Caesars. Hey, BetMGM. Hey, BetESPN. Whatever, So we're going to be able to do that. We're going to be able to expand. We're going to be able to grow. We're going to be able to give you guys more content and continue just to have fun with it. And that's ultimately what we've wanted to do this whole time.
Mm-hmm. And we're going to obviously we're going to remain a Saints podcast because we do cover your New Orleans Saints. And for the handful of minutes that we have left, we just wanted to give this as an introductory, kind of a press conference kind of thing, to announce the changes, but that your show itself wouldn't be changing. So I hope that you all consider this as good a news as what Brendan and I do. But like I said, we do a Saints show. So for the handful of minutes that we got left, Brendan, there's not a lot going on in Saints world right now. And I've always felt that this time of year, no news is the best possible news that you could have. Nobody's getting arrested. Nobody's holding out. We'll get to the Alvin Kamara thing in a minute. Nobody's dealing with a major injury. Nobody's dealing with a pending suspension that we know of. So this time of year, as a fan, you should always be holding your breath that your team is not in the news, and whatever articles that you read are just kind of preview articles, like I've been doing, like John Hendricks has been doing, like Ross Jackson has been doing, rather than, so-and-so is looking at a suspension, so-and-so is in legal trouble. You don't want that with your team ever.
I was going to say the last few years that I was writing, it felt like it was every off season, right? You had like Lattimore got arrested in like Ohio at one for something. I don't remember. He was in a car. That's all I remember. You had the Kamara Vegas thing.
Yeah.
Like, those are the things you don't really want to hear about. So yeah, you're absolutely right. And especially now when you have like a whole new offensive staff coming in, you want everything to be peace and quiet. You want to imagine those dudes are studying their playbooks, watching some film, having some good conversation, reaching out to guys, whether they be mentors, guys on the team, what have you. So that's, like you said, like no news is the best news right now. Like, if anything, if you're like a through and through New Orleans sports fan, like just be excited with what the Pelicans are doing right now.
Yeah.
Like, go be excited that they just traded for DeJounte Murray and you guys actually have a point guard. Like, that's got to be nice. That's the part that the Benson family's really, like Gail and Mickey, they want news over there. They want good news over there. They want good news for the Saints too, but they'd rather have the newsworthy stuff going on at Smoothie King than the Superdome right now. So there's that. DJ said he's getting 4 briskets and ribs started for tomorrow.
Nice.
Where's ours?
Right.
Like, that's awesome. But he said he wants a shirt. He'll catch up with us later. You know what, DJ? I'll go ahead and tell you. When we get shirts printed, you're the first one who's going to get one other than Bob and I. How about that? Easy peasy, right? You're in here every week. You're hanging out. So we'll get you a Bayou Blitz shirt, which means we also got to get a logo done, Bob.
I was going to say we need a logo done. I've had an artist friend of mine, got about halfway finished on a logo a few years back. It never did finish, and I know how to get in touch with him, but we've lost touch. So yeah, we're gonna have to get started on a logo. I do have two shirts that say Bayou Blitz on them, but it was I did a kind of a design your own, and it has the fleur de lis on the shirt. And the words Bayou Blitz, but no kind of logo. So yeah, that's our next goal, is to get a logo.
You know what? That is a Twitterverse type of thing right there.
Mhm.
Tweet out, give some college kid an opportunity, like a college kid that needs like a project for a grade. Like, hey, do it for us. Hopefully you get a good grade. We'll throw you a couple bucks. It's a win-win for everybody. At least that's what we did when I was in college in classes like that. Chad says, awesome news. Switched from YouTube. Appreciate it, Chad. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for hanging out. We're excited about it as well. Back to Saints world. Like, yeah, there's not a whole lot going on. Bob broke the news to me. I've been on the road all day. Bob broke the heartbreaking news that Keith Kirkwood is no longer a New Orleans Saint. He signed with the Baltimore Ravens. But you know what? Continue on, my friend from Neptune. You're a lot closer to your family now, too, being in Baltimore. Yeah. But what? He left once and he came back. It could happen again.
Sure.
But no, other than that, it's been fairly quiet, which is good. And it's going to continue to be quiet here until, well, we got about 3 weeks till camp starts. So that's when the coverage will really start to ramp up. So the next few weeks, 2 weeks, Bob and I will have some special things in store to talk about. If there's news, obviously we'll talk about it, but there's got to be some fun Saints history topics to talk about. I'm thinking John Butler's not in here. John, you're not in here, are you? If you are, just drop a comment. If not, we know how to get in touch with you. I'm thinking it'd be fun to bring like Alan and John and do like a round table, like Saints history thing. That's what I'm thinking. Like 2 weeks of that where people comment their questions, give us some roundtable stuff to kind of like debate. I know one of the bigger ones is like away from Drew Brees, like who's the greatest quarterback in Saints history. Like that's a conversation. I know it's really only down to 2 guys, but like that's a conversation between a younger generation and me. I don't mean any offense by this, Bob, John, or anybody, but like I'm going to have probably a different thought than Alan. I'm probably going to have a different thought than John Butler or Bob or whoever. Give us stuff like that. Give us who would win 11 or 09. Like if the 09 Saints had to play the 11 Saints, like who would win? Like give us things like that. That would be so much fun, especially because those 2 guys are some of the biggest Saints history nerds that I know.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, yeah, and here's one. Here's one we could talk about for a few minutes before we sign off. For you guys in the chat too, I want to hear your opinion. Alan and I talked about it on Under the Dome on Tuesday night. John Hendricks picked up the article and kind of expanded on it from, I believe it was originally done by NFL.com. But the article named the Mount Rushmore for all 32 NFL teams. And for the Saints, they named it. 3 are obvious, no brainers. Drew Brees, Ricky Jackson, Willie Roaf. The 4th one caused a little bit of a stir. Not in my opinion. I think they got it right, but they named Cam Jordan as the 4th member of the Saints Rushmore. To me, they got it right, but a couple players have significant arguments to being the 4th member over Cam. What say you, Brendan? Did they get it right, or was another guy overlooked, or is it even a close race?
Jerry just popped in. Hey, Jerry, hope you're doing well. Rewind this a little bit to catch up on some of the news or read through the comments. But when you said Cam, I didn't think it was when you said kind of controversy, and then you said Cam. I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, I think he deserves to be up there. But the first name that comes to mind that was left off of that list, and it's a little lame to some people, because we've made jokes about it before. But
I know it's coming.
Kickers and punters are people too, right? And so I'm thinking, like, well, where the hell's Morton Anderson on this list? Like, he's like the greatest kicker of all time, right? Arguably. Like, he played forever, obviously. He didn't spend his whole career in New Orleans, but Like that's one that comes to mind right away, at least for me. I think Colston has a case, right? I want to say Jimmy, but I know it's not, because kind of what he tweeted the other day. Like if he never got traded, like it'd be a whole different story.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But like there's like I think Morton's the one that like really sticks out to me. Like, well, that guy should be on there. You could make the case for Archie, but and this kind of goes to what I was saying with like the argument of who's the second greatest quarterback in Saints history. Like Archie was super important to the city of New Orleans. Super important to the Saints because he was the only decent player for those teams. But you look back at the stats, and I know like I can hear my dad, right? I can hear my dad going, if he had an offensive line, like I get it, but
he didn't.
Right. And I don't think I could make the argument to be like, yeah, he deserves to be up there. He's in the Ring of Honor. He's beloved by the city. All the Mannings are, and rightfully so. But yeah, I think for me, like Morton is the one where I'm like that's hard to keep him off. But he's I get it. He's a kicker.
That's because Morton is in my top. Morton is in my top 10, but he's not in my top 5 or 6 because he's a kicker. No disrespect to as much as we joke about it.
Too, Bob.
Right. No disrespect, but I mean, again, the top 3 are no brainers. Cam would be my 4th, followed very closely by Sam Mills, who I'm a little bit surprised you I overlooked a little bit. Colston and Jari Evans, to me, both have very, very strong arguments in this too. After that, then you get into Morton Anderson. Where does Alvin Kamara fall in this? I think Kamara has a real case, not necessarily for top 4 or 5, but certainly among the top 10 players of all time. And I mean, same with Mark Ingram for the same reasons that, we're talking Kamara statistically and what he meant to those Saints teams. But I mean, to me, once you get beyond Mills, Colston, and Jari, there's a pretty big, again, no disrespect to Morton Anderson or anybody else for that matter. There's a pretty significant drop off. I think in my head, Sam Mills, followed by Marcus Colston, Jari Evans are the only ones that really push Cam for that 4th spot on Saints Rushmore.
So you said you were surprised that I didn't say Sam Mills. For you guys that don't know, and I think I've said this before a few times, the first number I wore when I played Pee Wee was 51 because I watched VHS tapes of the Dome Patrol. Thanks, Dad. Thanks for keeping like NFL films yearbooks of terrible football teams. like I don't know why you had yearbooks of like fringe playoff teams, but I guess that's fine because that's the way that I was able to kind of keep up. And when I say I'm talking like when the Dome Patrol was like starting to get broken up there in the 90s. But I think for me, the reason I would keep Sam or Vaughn or Pat or any of them out of that is because Ricky's so far ahead, right? Statistically all over the place. Sam Mills finally getting, some of the love and recognition all these years later from, the writers and whoever votes people into things. But I think that's the reason is because when you say Dome Patrol, it's like Ricky and everybody else. Unfortunately.
And it is unfortunate because it shouldn't be that way. But those kind of, not arguments, those kind of debates for that kind of reasoning, that right there, it usually shows the generational differences between fans. Because, you talk about Colston, and would undoubtedly bring up things like his amazing statistics, longevity, and the massive disrespect he got over the course of his career. Whereas, and I completely agree, by the way, whereas people like my age we'll use that same argument why Pat Swilling isn't in the damn Hall of Fame. A travesty. Why Vaughn Johnson was overlooked. Why it took so long for Sam Mills to get his credit. The perception is there was Ricky and the rest of the Dome Patrol, but fans at the time, players at the time, this man behind me, has said this many times. The Dome Patrol was a hell of a lot more than Ricky Jackson. Jim Everett's Rams game planned for Pat Swilling, not Ricky Jackson. Jim Mora has called Sam Mills the glue that held that Dome Patrol together and the smartest football player he's ever been around. So, I mean, it's those kind of things that resonated with me, through my formative years as a football fan, and why I will tend to still drift towards comparing the historical players more than the relatively current ones.
Kenneth makes a good argument here in the chat. Kenneth from Facebook says, are we talking just players? Because if not, Sean Payton.
And no doubt, if we were talking overall, then Sean Payton would be the fourth person. There's no doubt. I say for the sake of this argument, let's leave it on the field and the players that wore the helmets and the shoulder pads. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Otherwise, Sean Payton would be that fourth member.
Chad says Morton Anderson was the only one that sticks out that was not on, but he thinks he'd side with Cam Jordan as the pick over anybody else. So Chad and I were on the same wavelength there. That's an interesting one. And I think New Orleans is interesting more than other Mount Rushmores because they were so bad for so long, right? It's not like you have this storied franchise it's not like you have the Steelers, for example, where you could pick from any Steeler defense from the 70s, 80s, you could be like, well, Terry Bradshaw, or somebody could go, Mean Joe, and then you could just continue down that list. Lynn Swann, you could go all the way to recent Big Ben, Hines Ward, like you could go that route. New Orleans, it's like, well, it's a pretty small sample size. Like you said, there's like 3 no-brainers, and then you got a couple guys fighting for 4. And that's it. So that does make it interesting. I think that's an interesting debate, interesting argument. Those are the things I want to talk about over the next 2 weeks. I definitely want to get some questions up from you guys. I definitely want to bring some people on the next 2 weeks to kind of chime in and give us their thoughts and their opinions on all that, just because I think it's fun. I think it breaks up some of the monotonous stillness. I don't know if that's the right way I want to say that, but everything's just kind of sitting still right now. So I think it breaks it up a little bit, gives us some stuff to talk about, gives us some fun debates, maybe not heated, but just fun. Gets to hear a lot of your guys' opinions that way as well. But Bob, for the people that have hung out, the people that have heard our news of moving over to the Minute Media Podcast Network and how that's not going to change anything of what we're doing outside of just expanding our horizons and expanding the amount of people that we get to welcome into the family. Bob, give me 3 words to explain your excitement. Tell people where they can follow you online, and then let's sign off for the evening.
3 words to explain my expansion. I mean, again, we've talked about that since day one. Expansion, opportunity, and what's a word for eye to the future?
You could just say future.
Okay, future. Expansion, opportunity, and future. Your Bayou Blitz folks, because of you, it's clear that we're not going anywhere for quite some time. We're obviously excited about this, this new opportunity, both for us individually and for your show. Because of what you were able to do, you put us on the map, and you're the ones that got us here. It's very clear that no matter what forum that we're going to be on, that as long as you want us around, we ain't going anywhere, guys. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. And just to kind of expand on that a little bit. Like, this isn't the first time that you guys have given us opportunity, right? Just because some other opportunities maybe didn't work out the way that we thought they would, doesn't mean that there have not been opportunities put in place or even offers that we didn't take, right? That people had reached out because because of, I don't want to say that we're like this massively popular show, but because people do say, things like the quality, the almost family feel, like you're having a conversation with friends in the living room. Those type of things that make this show special. The non-puppetry of what we say, meaning like we are just true in our thoughts and how we feel. And
It definitely ain't scripted, that's for
I
sure.
was gonna say Bob has got us fined a handful of, like, if we were on the radio, the amount of fines that we would have had to pay over the last 2 years from just Bob. Forget me. Like, I'm sure I would add a couple, maybe $1 to that. But Bob would be in the thousands of dollars worth of fines. But no, I mean, those are the reasons that we get phone calls and we get emails and we get people that reach out and want to discuss opportunities. And for us, this was an opportunity that we felt like we couldn't pass up. And it was an opportunity that, like Bob said, we only got because of you guys and the support that we've got, over the years, whether it be here, whether it be draft shows. Our view numbers go up every week, because of you guys. And, we could pat ourselves on the back all we want, but at the end of the day, a lot of it's because of you. So with that, Bob, where can people continue to follow you and your work as we embark on the remainder of the off season and new opportunities with a new podcast network?
Yeah, and as we said at the onset of tonight's show, we appreciate you guys, joining us. We apologize again, for our hectic schedule, and what both Brendan and I have been dealing with in our personal and professional lives. I believe, anyway, the goal is to be back on Wednesday nights at the normal bat time and normal bat channel. But we will, as always, keep you posted if anything changes. In the meantime, I'm going to continue to write. There are still things to cover for your New Orleans Saints. As we said before, a lot of them are previews, projections, player profiles, but continue to check those out because I'm going to continue to write about them. And you can follow me on Facebook to do so under Bob Rose, ROSE, or over on Twitter at Bobby R2613. I post all of my articles on my personal pages, and I'm trying to do some fun historical stuff too, going down the schedule and giving a quick historical recap of how the Saints have fared against each of their 2024 opponents. I have fun doing pieces like that, and this is the time of year to do it, along with, like I said, player profiles. When we're coming up on training camp, positional previews and position battles to look for too. John Hendricks, Ross Jackson, and I will be sharing those. So make sure you tune in for that. We're going to continue to give you content right up to training camp, and then obviously through the training camp and into the season.
For myself, you can follow me virtually everywhere at BT Boylan. Exciting stuff going on in personal lives for both of us, for professional lives for both of us. I actually, I'll give you a call after this to talk about something professional as well. I'll throw it out there. I know that there's not a whole lot of you that live in the state of North Carolina, but if you do, the Reel to Reel Film Festival is coming up at the end of July. It's located in Kings Mountain. If you guys want to come hang out, I will be there as a part of the selection committee for a night or two. Would love to see you guys and hang out if you're in the area. If not, you can check us out online. I've watched a lot of quality film and a lot of students' films, Bob, which has been very, very nice to see. Seeing, I'm going to sound old as hell right now. Seeing schools actually care about the arts again, because it started phasing out when I graduated high school.
Big time,
you saw a lot of the arts getting cut financially. So very proud of some of those schools that submitted and some of their work as well. But guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks for hearing us out on the news of the show. We will be back hopefully to Wednesdays. Maybe life will get normal, Bob. Maybe. They keep telling me it won't, but I'm going to hold out hope that we get back to normal here in a little bit. So until next week, hope you guys find some peace, spread love, practice positivity, and follow the Bayou Blitz on your favorite podcasting networks, whether it be Apple or Spotify. We'll see you again next week.
Good night all.